Good night, good night, good night, everyone. It is I, the one and only OmniWitch, Lucifaree Vera. Yes. Good night again, everyone. Tonight we're going to have a very special OmniCast. I figured what better time than tonight, right? What better time than tonight? Because I do believe tomorrow is This Is Politics. But we're going to talk about a few things this evening. We're going to touch on a few goddesses. We're going to talk about witchcraft. We're going to talk about real versus fake witches. Yeah. And we're also going to talk about sacred sex, sexuality, love. That's what we're going to discuss tonight with the OmniWitch. First, though, we must I got my guitar in my hand, my little mini sheet. Yeah. Dead. Trying to find a note to go with that second part, cause maybe it's that. Yeah, that might do it right there. All right, well, let's go and give it a try then. And then we can get the show on the road. Yeah, 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 yeah. Nah, this is a big country right here, y'all. It's a little song that I've been working on called There's No One. You know, speaking of sacred love, look, let me show y'all something. Watch this. It's late. I'm gonna try something. Just for the fuck. Oh. Well, let's see. Talking about what we're talking about tonight, I just wanted to see if something would happen here, and I'm pretty certain it won't. You see that? So how am I supposed to feel about that? Well, there's strike one. Anyway, this is called There's No One. There's no one that could ever take her place. There's no one that could ever take her place. No matter how hard I try, I always seem to find there's no one that could ever take her place. There's no one that could ever change her smile. There's no one that could ever take her smile. No matter how far I look, I always seem to find that same old. There's no one that could ever take her smile. There's no one that could ever take her place. I messed up. There's no one that could ever take her place. No matter how I try, I always seem to find there's no one that could ever take her place. There's no one that could ever take her smile. There's no one that could ever take her smile. No matter how far I look, I always seem to find the same old. There's no one that could ever take her smile. Yeah. All right, let's get this show on the road. Damn, this gets on. Yes. So here we are with Lucifaree Vera. There's just some things I wanted to get off my mind. First and foremost, I don't know if any of you remember the old, but remember I showed y'all this book? Some may not. But let me tell you something. This book speaks a lot on sacred sex, that I relate to sacred love. It is wrote by Gabriella, a fabulous writer. I believe it's Gabriella, what is it? I'm going to pronounce, Herstick. Hey, what? Gabriella, this is her stick. Stop it! How dare I say something so ridiculous? Gabriella Herstick, man. I couldn't even tell you. Wait a minute, there she is. Oh, God. I stand by. If it was, it would be. God, is she gorgeous? A sex witch. Woo, would I love to come in contact with one of them. You know, I was close one time. I was with someone who claimed to be a witch. And she didn't really know what being a sex witch was. However, sexually, she could have been. She could have been. But I think my presence was just so big. I used to be such a large presence that maybe she could have learned a few things from me other than sex. Because when I got with her, she was so young, she had no idea what to even do in bed. I love that. Because I said, I get to teach her everything. Now, not to sound sickening, I was very young too. I was 22, she was 18 when we met. And let me tell you something. For someone who had no idea what to do in bed, after being with me for some time, she became someone who was very desirable, that you just couldn't get enough of. She, if she knew what it was, could have been a sex witch. Especially by Gabriella Herstick's definition. But what I wanted to talk about out here, specifically tonight in this book, was the Sacred Sex Grimoire. We all know how deep I love my grimoire to be. And until I read this book, I didn't even know there was a Sacred Sex Grimoire. And that's something. And of course, they're bulletin points and not actual yes. This here is very important. The first thing you need to do to have sacred sex is to get rid of the shame, any insecurities, anything you're ashamed of. Because when you consecrate the Sacred Sex Grimoire, you're likely to have the greatest night of your life for the both of you. Because once the grimoire takes over, there ain't no one out there that can touch it, because that spiritual realm will just shake you all over. I know today there's this fad where people like to watch porn and watch MILFs, watch BBCs. What a fucking myth. There's all kind of BCs and little C's and regular C's. There's a C for everyone. But you watch porn and it'll make you think women only like one thing. You know, I read a study that over 80% of women would not touch what y'all see in those porn videos. Some people just don't like pain sex. They like good sex. But there are girls out there that think pain sex or whatever sex is the way to go. That's what they want. They want to go around tell all their girlfriends just how big this dingaling was. But you know what I noticed? Because I glance at porn, and you know what I find ironic? It don't matter what the woman or who the woman is having sex with. It don't matter what the other person has going on. While they're having sex, they got their hand down there making themselves get off. Why do you need to do that? I don't know. You see, I used to be of the mind state I didn't care if a woman got off or not. I was ignorant, selfish. But that was due to the alpha in me overpowering or not letting you take notice of any insecurity or shame in me. But let me tell you something. I done sent enough DPs out. And let me tell you something. It spoke highly of. And I never would have known it because I don't go around looking at penises. But why would I have had any shame or insecurities anyway? No one's ever said anything to me because I watched that porn and say, well, it don't look like that. But I've been with girls that sound like her. And trust me, the ones that want to get cocky and say they were faking, I know when you're faking or not. Because when I just push you off me, I know you're faking. But let's talk about getting rid of the shame. One of the main tenets I invite you to consider around sacred sexuality aligns with my views around the spiritual in general. Your relationship with sacred sexuality is intensely personal. Your sexuality and the way you practice sacred sex depends on you. That is worth celebrating. But often, before you get to this place of fully owning and revering your desires, you have to let go of the beliefs and values that you didn't choose for yourself, that culture and family chose for you. And this is big work. Huge work. And it's one of the foundational aspects of living a liberated life that I will be coming back to again and again. Later in this chapter, you will find a ritual to help you cut through those cords of shame and guilt. So she is also talking about the shame, those that come from families that call you fornicators and adulterers, and you're not married, this is of sin, and all that hoopla. Ain't no damn sin. Why would it be a sin? for something that creates life. Stop it. Gnosticism, like Tantra, isn't a singular sect, but many branches of Christianity that were seen as heretical and were intentionally stamped out between the 1st and 5th century CE. The Gnostics believe that everyone is of the divine, that everyone is the divine, but that this has been forgotten in the hazy landscape and illusion of the material world, and can only be remembered by personal connection and relationship with the Godhead, known as Gnosis. It is thought Gnosis that you can experience the divine union of the soul and its counterpart, Sophia, the feminine face of God that means wisdom. The goal of this mystical path is to free yourself from the bond of matter so you can return to the spiritual realm. The Gnostics let women preach and lead, which was a big turnoff for the church. And in this way, they were forerunners of many of today's spiritual communities that don't discriminate by gender. You might have heard that the Gnostics consumed sexual fluids and had orgies. But the truth is that many Gnostics saw the physical body as a prison, as something to be ignored. Those lingering rumors are based in the church's fears of unbridled sexual power. I think that's unbridled sexual power. Sorry about that. I know that's what it is. All this is to say that you don't need to follow any specific form of sexual alchemy or magic to connect with your sacred sexuality. All you need is to believe in your own unyielding power. One of the ways you can be reminded of this and live this is through archetypes. Throughout this book, we would discuss the invocation of different archetype powers by inviting in our embracing archetypals, energies. You're more easily able to connect to those aspects of yourself because the archetype is already built into the psyche. Early 20th century psychoanalyst Carl Jung coined the term archetype to describe themes and concepts that hold universal appeal for all humanity. Archetypes reside in the collective unconscious. Just as we all have conscious and unconscious sides, which can be thought of as the could be thought of as the awakened and latent aspect of the self, respectively. So is this played out on a communal scale. The collective unconscious contains common fears, tropes, symbols, and images that hold power because of the way they relate to humanity as a whole. They show up in dreams, art, religion, literature, and film. The superhero who saves the world, the bad girl, the god, the virgin, the whore, the sex port, etc. Even animals or gods can become archetypes when what they represent transcends to boundaries of their individual nature. Working with archetypes is important for all magical and spiritual practitioners because it allows you to transcend your own experience and tap into something larger than the self. In this way, you're not limited by your own worldview. If you're doing a ritual for strength and power, you can call on the lion or the Egyptian lion-headed goddess, Sekhmet. If you're sitting in a practice of presence and stillness, you can connect to the archetypal energy of the Buddha, following the path of those who have done this before you and have cleared the way. They've been doing this. Because the erotic and sexual are so ingrained in individual experience, archetypes are a powerful way to move past any limitations that are keeping you stuck. Sacred sexuality is evolving sexuality. It bursts you open to experiences and perspectives that are greater than you and often unfamiliar to you. Erotic archetypes offer a way to a sexuality that is innately connected to spirit and something that surpasses the individual. Think of them as blueprints to experiencing the sexual multitudes within. Society feeds us so many contradictory and dizzying messages about sex. Society always got something to say about sex, don't they? It can obscure our own values and morals. I let it happen to me, and I'm going to get into that. And letting it happen to me, it ended up backfiring on me. Taking a step back and examining your archetypal power can remind you that sexuality is a facet of your spirituality. And that, like your spiritual practice, your sexual and erotic nature isn't static, but ever transforming. Sacred sexuality into a journey defined by the destination, just as your preference have probably changed, you will continue to change. Since you began having sex, so will your relationship with sacred sex change. Working with archetypes is one piece of this puzzle that can help you figure out what feels right for you right now. You know, I am in love with this woman, and I don't even know her. I've been through this book a few times, and you know, this book is knowledge I wish I had my whole life. It saddened me that I didn't have this knowledge until, I want to say, late 2022. And I learned so much from this book that all I wanted to do was express what I had learned. I wanted to show the change within me. But I had one fallacy. The one who I thought was my chosen one left me high and dry with that. But I kept the faith. I was in shape. I was ready to go and just tear with this knowledge. But I didn't, because of this word, sacred. I needed that. And there was nothing going to be sacred about just going out there and pulling someone to have sex with. That was just going to be me beating something up and sending them on their way, because I'd have no feeling. And then 2025 came and I fell into a bit of depression, gained some weight, which I'm losing now, and got back to the same thing that troubled me before, but just not as bad. But it didn't matter to me, because when your sexuality or your sex is sacred and you invoke the divine, something happens. It does. Now, let's talk about witchcraft. Because I believe witchcraft is the most misunderstood first and foremost, witchcraft is not a religion. It's not a faith. It is of earth. It is only of earth. Through earth and the elements, our goddesses or gods that we descend from, that work with us, your magical powers come. Mostly the good. You see, you have to dig so deep. A lot of knowledge is useless. I'm in a whole lot of witch groups on social media, and I see witches get on there and break stuff down and give all of these explanations, and they try to sound so smart that the person asking the question gets confused. .9% of the time, I know what they're saying. And I've been fractioned in a couple groups. Last warning in a couple. Because I start off polite. And I say, this is someone new to witchcraft. Why would you put all of that in the comment to make it confusing for them? And 80% of what you're saying in there is bullshit. I mean, I had someone argue with me when I said all witches are pagans. But not all pagans are witches. Because they done came up with something called paganism and gave it its own meaning. People just get together and make up shit. They do. Just like man creates his own religions, you get these so-called witches that create their own religions. I don't get down with none of it. I respect them. And a lot of them are very knowledgeable. However, a lot of the stuff they say just is not true. But I don't have any quarrels with any of them. I would say of all of them, the one who I have the biggest quarrels with, who I say none of them are witches, would be the Wiccans. The Wiccans have belief in witchcraft. Yes, they do. But Wicca is too worried about society to be real witches. All that you just learned about sacred sexuality and getting rid of the shame, Wiccans hold on to it. Hell, they don't have the 10 Commandments, but they have a bunch of rules and ethics. And if you read and study their rules and ethics, you can see that they are a group that are afraid, is the word I use, to fully unmarry themselves from Christian principles. They want society to view them the same way. Some in society will, but the Christians will not. And I'm not talking about every Christian group, because we're going to do an episode on it, but there's like 9 or 10, even more Christian groups out there that by their own beliefs are of the devil, the Christian devil. And all they are doing is leading their people to the very place that they believe exists: hell. It's a shame. And what I believe the Wiccans are doing are leading their people away from the very spiritual freedom that gives you the salvation of witchcraft. Yeah, I said it, and I'll say it again. What the Wiccans are doing are leading their people away from the very thing that would give them their salvation, because they want the world to view them as good people. As if I'm not good people because I'm a witch that does not believe in ethics. My ethics are my choice. There's no set rules or principles or ethics involved with witchcraft at all. If the practitioner wants to do what the practitioner wants to do, that is up to the practitioner. Now, I will give the Wiccans this. They are I'm not going to say every Wiccan. I'm talking about the top dogs. They are very, very, very intelligent with the history of witchcraft. So why do they change it? Why change it? You know what witchcraft is. You see, I believe they fear the grimoires. The Dragon Root, the Key of Solomon, the 72 demons, so on and so forth. I believe they're afraid to invoke the assistants that can create havoc upon your adversaries. Because if you are weak, if you do not command, the grimoire you invoke, they will devour you as well. And I believe that's where they get their law of three at. That if you take a walk on the dark side, it comes back on you even worse. Because it is true when it comes to the grimoires that work for Lucifer. There are names of some of these realms that just saying their names, people have experienced damage. But it's that fear that brings it. I'm sorry. If I do a ritual to invoke Lucifaree Vera, when he comes before me, I am going to command him boastfully to bring forth Lucifer. And when I talk to Lucifer, I am going to command with no fear what it is I invoked him for. And he will go get it done. There is no protection from any of them. And it's not the bullshit you see where you get possessed and you start flipping around. No. They don't care about your faith. They don't care about you. It's more about your spirit than anything else. Lucifer was a beautiful angel. So how can one fear any of the grand grimoires but not fear Hecate? Hecate is an infernal goddess, the goddess of witchcraft. There is no witchcraft without Hecate. She is the gatekeeper. She leads the path to all that you want with your powers. She's the key. Yes, other goddesses have their use. But you get nowhere without the crone. And regardless of what you want to do, Hecate has the key to the door. She might as well be right there alongside any of the other that you invoke. The only difference between the La Dragon Rouge is Hecate doesn't demand your feelings, but you can't get nothing done without her. And this is truth. Your rituals that you perform are not magic. They are not for manifestation. The rituals you are performing are for your own satisfaction. Whether they get a damn thing done or not. I'm sorry. When I perform my rituals, I want shit done. I don't do rituals to make me feel good. If I want to terrorize someone, then damn it, I'm gonna make sure my ritual terrorizes that person. If I want to heal someone, I'm going to make sure my ritual heals someone. I'm not praying. I'm not sitting here praying and hoping someone does something for me. I'm conjuring and summoning. I don't stand in a circle to protect myself. That's weakness. Would I look like asking around for assistance and being afraid of them? And you wonder why you don't see manifestation. I'm sure you look for little things and say, "Ha, there it is." You don't have to look for manifestations. Does anybody know the story of Jane Mansfield? Jane Mansfield was a good friend of Anton Levy. Anton Levy had a quarrel with a friend of James Mansfield. And he cursed him. Now, when you hear a Satanist speak, we speak of greater and lesser magic. But there is magic amongst us satanic witches that we don't write about. Why? Because one thing a Satanist doesn't do is waste time. And I've been guilty of that. And I strike myself for it. When I tell somebody they're going to be sorry for what they've done to me, that's because I know I hold the cards. I know what I can do to you that you can't do a damn thing about. There ain't no cleansing. This is why this realm is here, to handle business. And they lie dormant, waiting to be invoked so they can go devour. Send them. So, when the Satanists talk about how rituals are just so one can feel better about themselves, that's because that's what they want to tell you. But Anton LaVey told Jane Mansfield, do not get in the automobile with, I can't think of his name right now, I know his name, but told her as her friend, don't ride in the car with him. She didn't listen. And they both died in a car wreck right after. That's because he invoked the real grimoire and commanded him, because he didn't want that man alive no more. But there is no saying, please spare my friend. That's my job to say, hey, I put this on his ass. Stay away. And I'm only going to tell you once. I'm not going to beg you. Because I can't have those type of feelings. I cannot want you harmed. But I can't start doubting what I did because you're around. Because that's how it comes back to you. People get in these blood oaths and these contracts. Those are real, man. Those are damn real. A lot of those grimoires require them. I'm writing the Dragon Rouge with my own blood. But unless I need to, on the first Friday of the new moon, which I believe I was looking out there, I could be wrong because I've been busy. Yes. Tonight is a very rare moon, and I am so upset that I forgot that tonight was the blue moon. Gosh. What a rare jar of moon water. I may go set some out there anyway. Actually, I got some. I do. It's going out there. I'm getting some of that blue moon in there. Yes, I am. But that is witchcraft. My goddess Isis gives me salvation because I am a descendant of hers. And as the sacred sexuality book spoke of the gods and their sexual desires and the goddesses, Isis was married and loved her husband dearly, the god Osiris. You see, why do Christians need to believe that someone was a virgin? There's not one other deity. I mean, there's other stories, like all through time before Jesus. There's been story after story of someone born on December 25th, someone born by a virgin, there's so many names I stopped following it. Jesus is just the last one. There'll be one after him. Just like there was like 20 before him with the same story. That shit's not witchcraft. But if Jesus was really here, I don't know what deity he descended from. But if his stories are true, that man was a witch. In fact, I would say he was a wizard. You only get a couple wizards on Earth. I think there's 2 on Earth right now. Wizards are real too, but they're scarce. It's like trying to meet the most popular person on Earth. You gotta understand, of all 7 to 8 billion people on Earth, there's 1 or 2 wizards. Very, very scarce. And most wizards can do anything they want, but limit what they do. That's why I love the voodoo priestesses. Because they get down like I get down. The hoodoo priestesses, which is voodoo. America separated it. They get down. They all get down. Because they're solitaire witches. You give few motherfuckers want to start a Coventry, that's cool. I like real Coventries. I'm not a big fan of Coventries that's just a whole bunch of homegirls playing games and think they're a Coventry. Watched a little too much Charmed. I know someone like that. Couple of them. But man, right now that blue moon sits right above me. And I'm going to go charge this water and a couple of these gemstones. You know, when I was going through issues with my wife, the greatest thing she ever done for me in the 2 decades, 2.5 decades, over 2.5 decades I known her, the greatest thing she's ever given me, and she's given me a lot. When we were going through our problems, she handed me a rose quartz, a finished rose quartz. And when she put it in my hand and I held it, it sits right beside me every night. Every night. Because in that rose quartz is a spirit. Her spirit. The spirit I once knew. Not this spirit or influence in her life now. So, did we cover everything tonight? You know, the OmniCast is in for great things. There's a lot of production going into it that I just haven't got done with yet. That's why we're just sitting here on a screen with flames behind us. Hell, we could probably put flames in us. Yes, this is how we can finish. This here represents the infernal. That's what they are. Infernal deities. That's who Lilith is. That's who Hecate is. Samael, Loki, so on and so forth. Do you know Lilith is the one who taught Adam everything he knew? And the Creator created Adam and Lilith as equals. But Adam was an arrogant motherfucker. And Lilith wasn't having it. So she looked at Adam and said, "You want a woman that you don't need to be sacred with? Someone who will lie down with you at will? Because I'm not lying down with you just because you told me God said so." I love Lilith. So she taught Adam how to make Eve. And then she went on, cast it out of the garden, and married Samael. Ain't it funny how things go? Adam's first wife is married to Samael. Be a whole nother lesson on who Samael is. But let's just say this. He's invocable. And he can fuck your shit up. I love it. You know, I don't know if the Wiccans like me or not. I have no problems with them, I just don't agree with them. I just don't. We covered sacred sexuality, the goddesses, witchcraft. Yes, we did. I put sacred love in there. I put love in parentheses. And I'm going to tell you why the OmniWitch did that. Because there are people who believe in love. There are. I'm not one of them. Other than the love that I was born with, I do not believe in it. But I do believe in sacred sexuality. Nothing's more beautiful than sacred sexuality. You know, there's erotic votaries out there. What erotic votaries used to do on the holiday called Beltane. They used to gather around the god or goddess, whether if it was them or statues of them. And on Beltane, you could go to them and make love to them sacredly, as if they were your god or goddess. You know, that's what Beltane's all about. It's a beautiful thing. Well, we have covered just about everything that needed covered tonight. And I just want you all to know that I have no desire at this point in time to harm anyone with my craft. I almost did a few months ago. Some intruders came into my home unwelcome. Yeah. They busted down the door and came in Satan's house. But I was nice because of a few that were there. But I almost made it the scariest night of their life. And I could have. Because I keep my spirits contained. They stay where I put them. But they are here. Ask anyone that's been here. And I can let them out. And scare your dick into your belly. And I could have sent them intruders running. But there was a few, quite a few, that I was fond of. So I just let them do what they wanted to do. Because I knew I didn't do anything wrong. But as always, y'all, from another OmniCast with Lucifaree Vera, the OmniWitch, blessed be. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on all platforms, whether if it's body cam reactions, or this is music, or this is hip-hop, this is politics, or the OmniCast. It is I, because I got something to say. And then I got one that's just me. Instead of just going live on my phone, I got one set up where I can sit here and go live and talk what I would just talk in the phone. And I'm going to design that to be This Is Me, where I just talk about life, personal shit. I did one last night where I explained the separation of the love of my life and me. There'll be more of those too. But as always, blessed be